Hi everybody, it's spring, and before we get started, I just wanted to say something really fast today. I am going to be talking a little bit about World War II history in our video today, and if I get anything wrong, please do let me know. Otherwise, how will I learn? I've also tried really hard to stick to facts, strategy, nothing. I've tried to stay away from anything like disturbing or gory or anything like that. However, if hearing about war in any capacity is not something you want to hear about at all right now, completely understand. That said, this is meant to be a relaxing, calming role play about visiting an air museum where I just happen to talk way too much, like checking into one of my hotels or something. So, with that said, I just wanted to say I love history. I always find myself loving to learn more and more about where we've been in the past as a people. I think sometimes I hope that I will find something there that will teach me how we as a people can avoid wars forevermore in the future. Because if there's anything I love more than history, it's a dream of peace. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's also something really, really true in my heart. And I think peace and love of peace is something that just starts with how we treat each other. And so if you ever feel hopeless and feel like war is just unending, or as they say in Fallout, war never changes, I just believe that that the human heart is a really strong and beautiful thing. And so for anyone who has ever responded to some of the horrors in the world with love, kindness, resilience, and the urge to protect, the urge to do better instead of to get angry, the urge to rebuild, to preserve, to grow. I just want to say I celebrate you, and I think there is so much hope. So I'm talking about World War II. But I'm always looking to the past with a lot of hope in my heart that we keep learning, that we keep doing better, and I believe we can. And so, anyway, with all that said, I hope that you enjoy my first role play in a minute, and I hope to bring you another one really soon. If the audio, video, and things like that aren't perfect, please bear with me. It has been a while, and I'm working on a new setup in a new place. So it might take a little while, but I will do my best to get there for you guys. And hi. Okay, please enjoy. Hi, welcome to the Air Museum. Is it your first time visiting? Oh, great. Well, it's so good of you to join us. And where are you visiting from? Oh, wow. Well, it must be nice to get a little bit of sunshine then. Well, I can take your tickets for you. Great. Thank you. Okay. Yes, you can come and go all day long. Just hold on to your ticket stubs. We do. We close at 7 o'clock today. Yes, and we do. We have food at the food court. There's a couple options. A cafe and a little bit more formal of a restaurant. Both are good. They're just both through the main hangar, and then you can turn right before you hit the restrooms. And then you will also be able to come and go as you please. So if for some reason you decide you'd like to venture out, there's a lot of good restaurants nearby too. Right, exactly. So go ahead and hold on to these, and then I'm just going to highlight these numbers here and here, and then we just code those with the date for each day. So you shall be able to come and go with these as much as you need to. Okay, so hold on to those. Now, what brings you in today? Anything in particular, or just here to look around? Oh, Masters of the Air. It has certainly energized people in a big, big way. We've had a lot more traffic lately. Yes, actually I have the book right here. We have it available in our gift shop. Yes, I highly recommend it. It's very, very good. It adds a lot more detail than the series does. Yes, as you can see, it's a very hefty book. So there is a lot to be told. But if you liked the series, I can guarantee you'll enjoy the book. Yes, the series was a very faithful adaptation. Even Meatball the Husky was based on a real dog. Yes, one of my favorite details. I can show you a couple things. There's pictures in here of some of the characters who are actually based on real people. And most of them, the details of their lives were told very faithfully. The missions explored in the show were told very faithfully, and I think overall the emotional state of the experience of war for the people involved was told fairly faithfully. So you can see it's got maps and all kinds of diagrams and things like that. You have a cross-section of the B-17 bomber right here, which shows, kind of the intricacy of what it looked like inside. But also, I think, just kind of shows how, to some degree, these were, when they called them flying fortresses, they really, in some ways, they were meant to be these entire units for entire squadrons of people working together as a unit. It wasn't just one plane or one pilot and co-pilot. It was this whole team working together, and they really break that down. So you can see all those things: the bomb bay door, radio operator's seat, ammunition box, dorsal fin, the rudder here, the tail gunner's compartment, the retracted wheel, entrance door, the Norden bomb site up here, which was kind of the signature of the B-17, the navigator's seat where the handheld gun was, the first pilot's seat, the upper gun turret, so on and so forth. But it has all kinds of details like that. That's really fascinating. We do have a B-17 here, a rather special one, in fact. Well, not the Memphis Belle from combat, but you're right, it is a Memphis Belle. We have the Memphis Belle that was used in the movie, The Memphis Belle. Yes, so we are so close to Hollywood and have such a rich history of sort of movie stars and filmmaking out here that we find it only fitting to have one of the great artifacts from World War II movies. So we have the one used in the movie The Memphis Belle, not the actual Memphis Belle though, but it is in wonderful condition, and you'll see that in our main hangar. That said, though, it has all of the features of the original Memphis Belle, so it will give you an idea of exactly what that looked like, and kind of give you an idea what the experience was for some of the airmen who went up in the bombers. Yes, statistically, the only people in more peril who were enlisted at this time were the men in submarines. Otherwise, the airmen, especially the ones in the Bloody Hundredth, were in the most danger, especially in the early years of the war. Danger was imminent for a very, very long time. In the first years of the war, there were a couple policies or strategies, I should say, that made it particularly dangerous. Here, for example, are squadron leaders. John Bucky Egan, I've also heard it pronounced Egan, and Buck Clevin, or I've also heard it said Cleven, of the 100th Bomb Group. So they are the two main characters and masters of the air right here, but this is what they looked like in real life. But they truly were best friends, and mostly the accounts of their lives and sort of the way they acted, even the way they dressed and moved, is all pretty accurate according to this book. So consistent with what was shown in the show. Anyhow, I digress. One of the reasons that life was so dangerous for the airmen in the 100th was because of the strategies. One, daylight bombing. Exactly. One of the reasons that Americans continued daylight bombing for so long was because it was seen as the morally correct thing to do. It sort of changed for a lot of people in Europe, their understanding and feeling about, bombing at nighttime, because they were experiencing the war on a more visceral level. For example, if you lived in London, you and your family might be feeling the direct effects and horrors of the Blitz. Or if you lived anywhere in Europe, you were feeling the effects of war. You were seeing the effects of war in your daily life. And so feelings about what was fair and what was just were really informed by emotion, by fear, by honestly sometimes feelings of vengeance and devastation in ways that were more still academic and theoretical in America. So American strategy was still a little bit more high-minded. The thinking was sort of, well, we will do daylight bombing because there is less chance of hitting civilians. It's more targeted. It's more just. And so there was some moral high-mindedness to it. There were also, just practicality issues that being more precise in hitting your targets was just a more effective way to carry out operations. So that was one thing that made it more dangerous. Another thing was that it was considered not incredibly useful to take evasive action in piloting the bombers because in order to hit accurately, you needed to fly straight through. So when you had flak coming at you or fighters coming at you like the Luftwaffe, you had to be courageous enough to fly straight through that. Now a lot of these pilots only had 100 hours of training, actual flight training. So imagine having 100 hours of flight training and then being told to fly straight on through, attacking Germans and just flak all over the place. that would be incredibly, I don't think terrifying even covers it, right? But they did. So that made it dangerous. They were also used as bait later on to draw out a lot of the Luftwaffe in order to draw them out and pick them off slowly in order to gain air supremacy for the Allies, sort of slowly over time in sort of a long war of attrition. And so the bombers were used that way. So there were lots of reasons why it was incredibly dangerous. Also, there just simply weren't fighter planes that could accompany them long enough on a lot of their missions until later in the war when the Mustang was rolled out. And when that happened, the tides really started to turn. But lots of reasons why it was incredibly dangerous. Yes. So many of the big missions early on were incurred heavy losses for the 8th and for the 100th in general. Was there a particular mission that you were most interested in? Schweinfurt, Regensburg. Yes, that's such an interesting one. Well, actually, it's interesting you say that. Here's a picture of an intelligence officer doing a briefing for one of the meetings right there. I always wonder what it would have felt like to sit down and find out what you're going to be doing. It must have taken so much courage. So, yes, I think there's a map in here. If you want to give me just a second. I think actually it's somewhere. Oh, let me see. Schweinfurt, Regensburg. There's a map somewhere, and I want to see. Did I bookmark that? Is it here? Is it the picture? You know what? Maybe it's more up front. Oh, you know what? I think that map is closer to the front here. That's such an interesting mission. Let's see, Schweinfurt, Regensburg. You know what? Let me just look in the index real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay, Schweinfurt, Regensburg. Okay, so that's going to be up front. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's a map that's kind of showing. This actually is going to show all of, well, not all of, but selected targets of the 8th Air Force here. So actually, if you look down here, this is Schweinfurt, and then I want to say down under, let me remove my little marker because it's hiding. Oh, come on now. Hiding right under this one, actually. So just above Munich, Regensburg, right there. So you can see there's Schweinfurt and Regensburg here, like that. Do you see? So that's a good question. Some historians would call it a Pyrrhic victory. in that there was enough damage done, particularly at the, I want to say at the Schweinfurt plant. Actually, you know what, I think somewhere I have the plan of attack map for it, if you want to give me just a second. Where did I put that? So, is that one it? So, let me see if I can find the maps. Well, it's interesting, Schweinfurt, Regensburg. Historians will call it everything from boondoggle to Pyrrhic victory. It was ambitious, that's for sure. Prior to D-Day, it was maybe their most audacious show of force in the air. And it was creative, it was visionary in a way, but also just incredibly tragic and costly. Sure, and certainly these are just my thoughts. I would recommend talking to one of the docents walking around. They have little blue pins that say docent or volunteer on their shirt. Yes, and they have, almost all of them have served or trained as pilots, so they will be able to give you a much richer perspective on all of this. Yes, mine is strictly academic and therefore very flawed on all of this, but so here actually is one of the maps of the route to Schweinfurt, so you can take a look. Yeah, I can slide this up for you to see. So yes, you can kind of see the map here, and I'll try to highlight the routes a little bit for you if you'd like. And if you would like to get on looking, please do. Okay, great. I'll just gab about it, so great. Okay, so you can kind of see one of the things that was so ambitious about this is you'll see that there's multiple routes, right? So this is called a shuttle mission. And that means that part of the armada would split off, and that would mean that you would have two strikes. You would strike here at Schweinfurt and here at Regensburg within minutes of one another, effectively dividing the Luftwaffe forces here and here, right? And so this would be good, divide and conquer, right? The other part of it that was really, really ambitious was that, well, you would have these forces, so you'd have this huge armada flying together, taking off from here and here, and flying together, and then you would also have forces from here to hit the Regensburg target. Now, the people who were the pilots who were going to hit down here at Regensburg, instead of joining back up and returning to Great Britain, they would actually, to throw off the Germans even more, they would take a route deep, deep, deep through enemy territory, down past Munich, all the way to Bonn, Algeria. So they would fly even deeper through enemy territory, past it, to Allied territory safe in Algeria. Now, on their way back, they would hit another target and then return after they had some time to rest. and that would give them time to regroup. It would also mean that the Luftwaffe would be expecting to mount a counterattack when they returned, but they would not return, and this might give them a better chance at escape. So there were a lot of moving parts here, and it was, again, like I said, a very creative plan. Right, so what could go wrong? Well, as you would have seen in the show, fog is a large part of what went wrong, right? So there was very heavy fog at one of the bases. Because of that, the synchronicity of taking off was thrown off, and everything in this plan was really down to coordination. So once you lose coordination, you sort of lose everything here. So what happened is, well, one group decided to take off and go. The others were waiting for the fog to clear. And what happened is, so when the Regensburg group of pilots took off on schedule, the Schweinfurt portion were delayed by the roiling fog. And so unfortunately, by the time the Schweinfurt group approached battle, the Luftwaffe had coordinated a response, and Allied losses were severe and tragic. This is where it's hard to say. 60 B-17 bombers were shot down. That's right, 60. 60. 600 airmen were lost. Some lost their lives. Some became POWs or went MIA. Right. At the same time, 2 German ball bearing factories were completely destroyed and taken out of commission. And so that was not insignificant. However, the losses, many people agreed, were not really acceptable for the amount of progress maybe it made for the Allies. That said, a lot was learned, and this was not the only path that the 100th would take at these targets. It's also an important battle for sort of understanding just how much danger these pilots were constantly in, and their crews as well. Well, I mentioned that fog was perhaps what dealt the Allies a fatal blow here, but it certainly wasn't the only bit of nature that was up against these airmen. So when we look at the B-17s, actually I have another great book. This one is also available in the bookstore if you're interested. I think we only have used copies because they're so hard to find now. Yeah. But if you're an enthusiast, these are really neat. And so this is the B-17 Flying Fortress units of the 8th Air Force. This is part 1. They also have part 2. But these are the Osprey combat aircraft manuals. And these are really neat. They give you comprehensive histories of sort of all of the fighting aircrafts from the wars. And this one is really neat because it shows all of the different versions of the B-17, along with all kinds of liveries and things like that. So this one is just really neat. If you're interested in all of the variations, the technical specs of each of these, it also has a lot of the more famous of a lot of the more famous names, paintings, monikers, and things like that, from some of the more well-known bombers. But, when you look at these, you realize that even though they called them fortresses, we have to remember that they had lots and lots of flaws. And one of those flaws was that they were not pressurized, right? So this particular mission required these pilots to fly so high. This particular plan required them to be, I want to say, over 1,000 miles in the air. And when you don't have a pressurized cabin, that gets freezing. I mean, freezing. So when you're in those temperatures, that means that you're up against frostbite, hypoxia, risks of low oxygen, all kinds of things. I mean, and just think about even your nerves. You're already shaking, and then you're literally freezing. So you can get your hands frozen to your weapons if you're not careful with your gloves and everything else. So that's very, very hazardous. These fortresses just weren't pressurized. On top of that, you were supposed to fly in very, very, very tight formation. And again, these are big, big aircrafts. They're not tiny, tight little P-51 Mustangs. They're big. And keeping them in tight formation, especially with the fog, the flak, everything else is very difficult. You can see actually in this picture here sort of what the chaos in the air looked like when you had fog, flak, enemies everywhere. Imagine trying to keep an extremely tight formation 1,000 feet in the air when everyone's freezing and afraid. I can't even imagine the amount of courage and just mental fortitude that would take. Yeah, so there was a lot going on. On top of that, they didn't have escorts, right, that could go the full way with them. The escorts that they had at the time needed to refuel. So you might have had an escort that could go with you, some of the way from here to here, let's say, or from here to here. But then what they would have to do is stop and then go back to refuel. Otherwise, your escorts were also at risk. And so what would happen is you would have large lengths, all the way from here to here, here to here, here to here, most of the way in deep enemy territory where you just had no escort whatsoever. And it was just you and the flak and the Luftwaffe, and really, really, really scary. So that was part of the reason also for the people in the Regensburg wing, on the leg, the Regensburg leg, to go down and stay in Algeria. And again, they did, and then they were meant to hit another target on the way home and then return all the way back. They did show a little bit of that in the show, but not quite all of it. So, yeah. Yes, we do in fact have a P-51 Mustang, and you can also see that in the main hangar. Sure, so let me just show you. So we're here right now, the front desk here. So you're just going to go down that hall there, and you're going to go into the main hangar. In the middle of the main hangar, you're going to see the beautiful Memphis Belle. Okay. Now, the cafe is just down from there, and the sit-down restaurant is just off of that, and the restrooms are just down the corridor from there, okay? Now, if you want to see the P-51 Mustang, then you're going to go out into the open air section. And we've got some really cool helicopters and things out there. And then go across that open air. You're going to see another hangar, so just keep on going. And you'll see another big set of hangar doors right there and there. So don't be shy going through. Yes, go ahead and just show them those tickets. Just hold right onto those. And you can just right on in there. And that's where you'll see the P-51 Mustang and some more of the fighter planes from the era as well. Yes, great. Oh, sure, I could actually write down the names of the books for you and their authors if you want to take that when you go to either the gift shop or if you want to go to the library later. Yes, and actually, you know what? I have an extra copy of the Schweinfurt-Regensburg map if you want to take it with you. So I'll just write it on the back for you. Okay. So, oh no, it's my pleasure. I hope I'm not talking too much, but it's really fun to talk about these things. Okay, so this is the, let me move this actually. So this one is the Osprey Combat Aircraft. And this is 18. And I believe the part 2 is just the edition 19. So this is B-17 Flying Fortress Unit. Flying Fortress units of the 8th Air Force, and this is part 1, and it's by Martin Bowman, B-O-W-A-M-A-N, Bowman. Okay, so that's this one, and again, it just looks like that, okay? Okay, and then the other one is Masters of the Air. Yeah, and this is Donald Miller, and I believe he's the one who has written all of the other inspiration books for, I believe, for Band of Brothers and the Pacific, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it's just such a nice, comprehensive book. Yes, a lot of the perspective of Crosby, just like in the show, all kinds of accounts of the experience of World War II as told from the perspective of the 8th Air Force. So let me write this one down. So Masters of the Air, just like the show. Masters of Air. And it's America's bomber boys who fought the air war against Nazi Germany, and it's Donald L. Miller. Okay. You know, I don't know if it comes in, I don't know if I've seen it in hardback or not, but it's possible, and if you'd like it as a collectible, I think that's a great idea. Like I said, there are so many great picture inserts and things inside it. You'll see, like I said, some of the pictures of some of the some of the people represented in the show, and also some interesting cameos from celebrities. There's Jimmy Stewart. He was one of the 8th combat commanders. So Jimmy Stewart, again, lots of celebrities in this war. And then, yes, Rosie is in it. Like I said, outcries. All of the people in the show. You get to learn a lot more about kind of who they actually were, sort of before and after as well, which is really, really neat. And again, just so many cool and interesting pictures of just again of the experience of what it was like for these people in the war, you know, both up in the air. It's kind of amazing, the amount of pictures, documentation, journals, things like that, just artifacts of their experience. So hopefully it's something you might enjoy. But mostly I hope you enjoy your time with us today. Yes. Well, it's been so nice to talk to you too. And I'm Spring. I'll be right here if you need anything. But like I said, there are so many volunteers and docents all around the Air Museum today. So they're here to help. They love to talk probably even more than I do, and they know far more than I do. But I just hope you have such a nice time. If you have any questions that I can't answer, I'm so happy to. And otherwise, just please enjoy yourself. Great. Okay, thanks so much. My pleasure. Okay, bye.